Let me hear, say your name. Let me mark the register, and we get going for another day in the classroom. Once you're there, you can let me know if you're hearing me. I think somebody is saying that there's an audio problem already. I hope we got that solved by the time we begin the classroom. I don't know why we are always having this issue to save microphone every time. So I hope you're hearing me now. All right. So good morning to everybody who's in the classroom. Ginger Cartel is already in the class. I'm marking registers very early. So if you're here, you need to actually let me know where you're from so I could start marking the class register. Those who come in late, well, I am not going to go back over anything when I start classes this morning. School began at 10. We were a little bit late, but it's my fault, so I'll take that. But anyway, let me get into this thing here as quickly as possible. I'm not going to keep anybody long today. It's a Monday, and I think everybody has business to do on a Monday. So good morning to the Afro Grenadian. Good morning to Ginger Cartel. Okay, all right. Okay, good. So Grenadians in the house already. I'm going to begin with a text in the scrolls. A lot of people may not want to hear this. And I'll explain to you the reason why I'm starting with this text from the scrolls before I get into the program this morning. So let me start with the text from the scroll. It is from actually the scroll of Matthew and 25, 1 to 13. And I'll tell you why I'm starting with this. Then it says, the reign of Shimeen shall be compared to 10 maidens who took their lamps, went out to meet the bridegroom. Okay? These who were foolish, having taken their lamps, took no oil with them. But the wise took oil in their containers with their lamps. Now, while the bridegroom took time, they all slumbered and slept. And at midnight, the cry was heard, see, the bridegroom is coming, go out to meet him. Then all the maidens rose up, trimmed their lamps, and the foolish said to the wise, give us of your oil because our lamps are going out. But the wise answered, saying, no, indeed, there will not be enough for us and you. Instead, go to the house who sell and buy for yourselves. And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the wedding feast, and the door was shut. And later the other maidens also came, saying, Adonai, Adonai, open for us. But he answered and said, truly I say to you, I do not know you. Watch therefore, because you do not know the day nor the hour in which the Ben of Adonai will appear. Why do I start with such things from the scroll this morning? Why did I start with that this morning? Well, the war is on. It's not stopping. Things are getting out of control. And the bawling start. Yeah, that's why I captioned the title of the video. The bawling start. What do I mean by the bawling has started? Well, people across the Caribbean, apparently, leaders now start to make noise about what and what is not. I don't know how many of you here were on my previous channel that YTube decided to, terminate without warning, without strike. After all, I don't talk about the Epstein class and all these people, so but that's just what it is. I don't know. I used to be talking a lot. Afro Grenadian would testify to that. Virgil could testify to that. Miss Arima could actually testify to that. I have always been talking about preparation, 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 preparation. Put a little oil in your lamp. I have always been talking about that. A long time since I started this channel. Started back the first one I had, which we had a large community of about 30, close to 34,000 people. I have always been talking about put away a little oil in your lamp because you never know when things could go south. And things have gone south, way south. And now the leaders are starting to talk about, oh, well, we don't create oil in the Caribbean, we don't refine oil, we don't produce it here, we don't have it in all the islands, so we have to import. Now that people are starting to cry about their light bills, the electricity bills, and I don't know what their electricity bills look like in Grenada. I don't know what it looks like in Trinidad. I don't know what it looks like in St. Lucia, Barbados. I don't know. I'm going to show you something from Barbados very soon. They have begun to talk about fuel. My Lord have mercy. They have begun to talk about fuel and the cost of fuel now. Could you imagine this nonsense? Hmm? Could you imagine this nonsense? Anyway, before I continue, let me say good morning to everybody in the classroom. Sammy is in the classroom. I'm marking the register at this time. Sammy is in the classroom. So Sammy, I think Sammy is present. Sammy is present in the classroom. We take that off one time. Who else is in the classroom? Virgil is in the classroom. So that's present, please. But if you're here, when I call your name, just say present, please. I'll put up your hand, give a thumbs up or something. So let me go back with Sammy. Sammy is in the classroom. Raise your hands. Put a good morning, a wave or something when I call your name. Sammy is in the classroom. Sammy from St. Lucia. So you will let me know if you're present, type present, right? Virgil is in the classroom. Virgil, if you're in the classroom, give me a thumbs up or put present, please, in the classroom. Yvette Phillips. Yvette Phillips, if you're in the classroom, give me a thumbs up. Let me know if you're here. Yvette Phillips, good morning. Put a thumbs up, say present, please. Let me continue to go up the classroom register. Ginger Cartel. I think Ginger Cartel was actually the first person to be present in the classroom this morning. So Ginger in the classroom, present, please, or give me a thumbs up. Miss Arima, if you're in the classroom, thumbs up, present, please. Lady in Hector, let me know if you're in the class. I'm seeing you there, so let me take you one time on the register. Let me see who else is in the classroom in the meantime. Slimmers 51, either present, please, or the thumbs up. Afro Grenadian should be in the classroom. I saw Afro Grenadian in the classroom. Afro Grenadian, once you're in the classroom, you put your present, please, or your thumbs up, so I could actually mark you off on the register. I'm very happy that you guys are present early, very, very early for the classroom. All right, so it looks like everybody's back in the classroom. All right, so you can share the live so others can come in and we could continue the classroom, but we're not going back from what we started with. I'm going to continue now. So I began with the text about the virgins and the 5 foolish, 5 wise virgins to present to you what we are facing at this time in the region. I've been talking about preparedness for a very, very long time and why you should actually be prepared, because you do not know what is going to go down. Things have gone south with the war. The war is not stopping, it's getting worse. Fuel prices continue to climb, they're not going to come down. What I would advise anybody here to do now, that's in the classroom, is to, when you go to the supermarket, you put aside a little thing. If you buy 2, you put aside 1. If you're not going to use them right now. I'm talking about canned goods if you have any, because they're not really the best of things and healthy, but sometimes in disaster, those are the only things that you can get. And when I say disaster, this is a man-made disaster created by the Epstein class. Right now, what we have now in the Middle East, I call it the Epstein Fury. That's what I call it. They call it Epic Fury. I call it the Epstein Fury taking place in the Middle East. And after the Epstein Fury in the Middle East, I hear they're moving into Cuba if they don't get a deal. So I have never seen a government just sit down and start fomenting wars after wars for some reason. Something has to be going on. Why they are fomenting this war after war, I really don't know. I think we're getting some early calls and somebody wants to really ask a question, maybe early in the morning. So let me try and see if I could let me see what's going on here. I'm hearing that there could have been a drone strike um, in Haiti and it killed about 17 people. That's what I'm getting out of Haiti right now. Somebody is sending the information to me. Anybody on the live who knows about that, you could actually come in and let me know. This is some breaking news I'm getting here. I'm not sure when this took place. Um, if it's this morning, so that's about 6 days ago. Okay, all right, that's about 6 days ago. All right, so let's continue with the classroom. King Bruce from Guyana is in the class. All right, morning to you. Good morning to you. And President Jaffa, President Jaffa is now in the classroom as well. Share the live, share it with your friends, just share it around, share it on Facebook, share it in your WhatsApp group so others can come in. We need to build back the community because a lot of things are happening that we need to discuss. Like I said, let me continue with this thing that I'm here. I'm getting some phone calls here as well. Let me see if I could get back the person online so that they can tell us what is it that they wanted to speak about. Um,
Greetings, morning.
yes, good morning. You're live on the live. Go right ahead.
Oh, I didn't know I was live. I am watching your channel and find you very interested. I'm very interested in what you're doing there. And I don't know what to say. I was just logged you into my WhatsApp.
Yeah.
And so now I see. Keep up the good work. You're on time. You're on track. I am somewhat disappointed with my Caribbean brothers and sisters. I've been amongst you for almost 40 years, 30 plus odd years.
Yeah.
And with what's going on now, the power is diminishing. I've been saying the same thing. You have got to feed yourself.
Yep.
You have got to do more than expect a cruise ship to come in. All the people you so welcome so much, they look, they see, they like, they want, they coming back to take. You understand what I'm saying?
Wow.
So you're too open. You're too open. You're too free. You're going to have to lock it down.
Yep.
You're going to have to lock it down. And it's not just to one that may look like me, but trust me, everybody that comes there because there's been a natural disaster or something like that, they're not coming there just to repair. They're coming there to watch, to observe, to look, to eventually come and take it. You have what everybody wants, and you just treat it like a red-headed stepchild. You don't cherish what you have. You have all this land, and you're not providing the food that you need. I can't believe what's happening right now with Cuba, particularly. That's not even the United States of America property ends at Point Udall St. Croix. That's it. For the Eastern. There's no way y'all supposed to be sitting back allowing this to happen.
Well,
absolutely no way.
Well, like I always say, our leaders that we have are managing decline. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
So, but we,
absolutely.
yeah, but thanks a lot for calling, dude. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, good.
I'll be tuning in. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot. So that's our first caller this morning, guys. Listen to me. Listen to me. I've been saying for the longest of while. Our people. I've been urging our people to do the preparation. And that's the reason why, and this is exactly the reason why I've been doing that. The issue of the fuel that will burn, the issue of the fuel is causing significant grief throughout this region. All right? I'm going to show you something that came out of Barbados. I guess those of you who are living in Barbados will know about this. So this is what the Light and Power Company put out to the public after people have been complaining about the whole issue of why my electricity bill is going up, skyrocketing. This is what they put out to the public. You know, this is the time they're doing this, okay? Global oil prices and your electricity bill. What Barbadians should know about recent changes in fuel costs. And this is something that is across the region. This is not for Barbados alone. This is exactly what is going to be taking place across the Caribbean. But our leaders are now, in tune with what is happening. Just like how they sat and watch what happened in Venezuela, and they're sitting and watching what is happening in Cuba. It is basically the same thing that they're doing with this whole issue taking place in Iran. So they have placed this out for the public to see. And then they went on, they said, why are electricity costs changing? Global conflict and instability are impacting the cost of fuel around the world. These global pressures are now being felt at home in Barbados, increasing the cost of the fuel used to generate electricity and in turn affecting customers' bills. So they are saying that the global conflict and the instability are impacting the cost of fuel around the world. And these global pressures are now being felt at home in Barbados, increasing the cost of fuel used to generate electricity and in turn affecting customers' bill. Now, we had in this region, whether you want to say communism or socialism, it's up to you. But in the region, we had an ally in President Maduro in Venezuela. This is the time we're now seeing why people and why governments like those matters, because we will not be facing the mirage of problems that we're going to face now if we had good allies like those in the region still. But we sat, our leaders sat, not many of us, our leaders them sat and watched the Americans did what they did in Venezuela. Well, you're going to have your high cost of fuel with nobody to help you now, and you'll have to deal with that. I'm talking about the leaders. They're complaining, but they're the ones that sat and managed the decline in this Western Hemisphere. They are managing the decline in the Western Hemisphere. That's what they're doing. So the Barbados Light and Power is now telling people that this is what is happening. But could you imagine Barbados a flat country? Shouldn't they have about 50 solar farms in Barbados and producing electricity? They have nothing blocking the sun, you know. It's a flat open plain. That's the best place that you can place solar farms. And what are they doing? Why are you telling me about high cost of fuel and importing fuel? Isn't that a disgrace? Isn't that a disgrace? And those of you from Barbados, I placed the link in the chat section. I pinned it to the top. If you want to come in early and talk to me about what the cost of electricity in Barbados is all about, come in and talk to me about what the cost of electricity is all about. If you're living in Barbados and you want to talk to me about it, I've left a link in the chat section. It's pinned to the top. Click on it and come in and talk to me about what's really happening in Barbados with this electricity cost. But we should not be suffering because of what is happening in the Gulf region right now. We have enough of everything, whether it be land to plant food, we have the land to put solar farms, we have flat places in Barbados, we have flat places in St. Vincent, Trinidad, in St. Lucia. I mean, you could name them throughout the Eastern Caribbean. We have places that are flat. We have places, some countries are mountainous. Not a problem, they do have flat plains as well. But we've been joking around with this whole issue of electricity for years and years and years. All right? So the class is an open class today. You can call as early as possible. The link is there in the chat section. You can click on it. Come on in and talk to me about this electricity and how you're going to deal with it in your back neck of the woods. But let's continue. This is what the Barbados government or the Barbados Light and Power has put out. So it continues. It says how electricity is generated in Barbados. About 80% of electricity in Barbados is generated using fuel purchased on the international market. 80% of electricity in Barbados is generated using fuel purchased on the international market. Well done. A country that is flat, open, you can put down solar farms. You're looking for investments from China all the time, like you said. China has a lot of solar farms. They put them down all the time. These are the things that we are supposed to be asking for when we go to people and we make deals with them. These are the things that we're supposed to invest in because we have a problem in the region with electricity costs generally because we don't do the oil, the fuel here, the oil here, and we just, this has been going on for years. And I'm saying to my people in the region, we've been managing decline. The leaders have been managing the decline in the region. That is what they have been doing. They've been managing decline in the region. They've not been really been dealing with the business of the region. They've been managing the decline of the region. And so the Light and Power Company says when global oil prices increase, the cost of generating electricity also increases. Do you understand what's happening here? It says when global oil prices increase, the cost of generating electricity increase. Well, that's baby child's play. We all know that if the oil prices increase, the cost of generating electricity also increase. What are you putting out this for? This is A B C D E F G. We know this, right? This is what they're putting out for the people in Barbados. But the balling has started. The balling has started. Let's go. Let's continue. It says, what's happening with oil prices? Recently, the price of West Texas Intermediary, the WTI crude oil, increased from about US $64 per barrel last month to much higher levels earlier this week. These changes affect the cost of fuel used to generate electricity. So here comes the excuses as to why your electricity bill is out of control. Here comes the excuses now when we should have been preparing for this. Do you think what is happening in Iran started like yesterday morning? If you follow the news, if these leaders really follow the events in the world, they would know that Iran would have been coming into focus very, very soon. The US media has been talking about it's something I keep saying over and over again. Anytime you hear the US propaganda media begins to talk about something, it means that the Americans are going to either do something there or go after somebody. Note that it's been happening all the time. When it came to the Gulf War in Iraq, they talked about Iraq for almost 6 months and then they invaded Iraq. They've been talking about Venezuela for a long time. They went down there, they kidnapped the president, take him to the US. Well, they really have no case. They're trying to build a case till now they can't build it. Then you hear them, they were talking after Venezuela, they were talking about Iran, Iran, Iran. Even when they were dealing with Venezuela, they were talking about Iran. So we know they were going into Iran after Venezuela. And while they're there now, they're talking about Cuba, Cuba, Cuba. And even after Venezuela, they began to talk about Cuba. This is what the American propaganda media does all the time. And it's something I've been asking the leaders. I had a conversation about 3 of the Caribbean leaders. And I said, do you watch anything at all that is happening in the outside world? I said, don't you know that once the American propaganda media, state regime in America, state regime media in America start talking about something, is when they're going to do something about it? You've been hearing a lot of chatter in the American now about this issue of drone attacks on the West Coast by Iran. You hear them talking about that, right? Don't get it twisted, you know. Don't get it twisted. These are false flag events. They're planning. They're telling you it's going to come. Not Iran. They're going to do it. Some excuse they're going to use to do it. Don't get it twisted. They've been talking about it lately in the news as well. And they're saying it's Iran, Iran, Iran. And then you hear them talking about this. We're watching New York and maybe a 9/11 scenario could happen again and sleeper cells. That's because they know these things are going to happen. They're the ones who propagate these things. You have to pay attention, people. They tell you what they are going to do. And if the leaders were paying attention, they would have known that this issue of Iran was coming up and oil, something should have been done already. But, I really don't understand what we have in the region. I really don't understand. Anyway, which foreign country Trinidad is purchasing? Somebody is asking which foreign country Trinidad is purchasing the refined fuels. Does that make a question from Miss Arima? Miss Arima is asking which countries Trinidad is purchasing refined fuel from. That's it. That's a good question. That's a very good question. Let's see. Let's see if we could get that out. Apparently, it seems that let's get the answer for that, Miss Arima. I know you're always on the ball when it comes to these things, and we have to do one-on-one. So they're saying that Trinidad and Tobago primarily imports fuel products, including refined petroleum and gas, from the United States, which is their top partner, followed by Italy, Bonaire, Spain, and the Netherlands. That's what they're saying here. That's of 2025, according to the World Bank. That's what they're saying. So that's what the World Bank is saying, that they're buying it from United States. That's the top, purchaser. That's something. Um, what a time for us. What a time. All right, let's continue. So here's what the government is saying. Here's what the government is saying here in Barbados. How does this appear on your bill? Look at this. Fuel costs are reflected in the fuel clause adjustment, FCA, which accounts for more than 50% of your electricity bill. You see what's happening here? Fuel costs are reflected in the fuel clause adjustment, FCA, which accounts for more than 50% of your bill. So the FCA has increased from, this is Barbados, 28.994 cents per kilowatt in February to 36.256 cents per kilowatt hour in March. Do you understand what's happening here? Do you understand what is going on here? Your cost per kilowatt hour has increased in March. So if you're living in Barbados, if you're living in Barbados, this month you're actually going to pay 35.8256 cents on every kilowatt hour for the month of March. So it's gone up from 28 to 35. So if we calculate a rough bill, like say you do about 600 kilowatt hours times 35.8256. This is like if somebody is running what you call it, a supermarket, a small shop or something, and they do 600 kilowatt hours, they're gonna pay $2,295. If they're running like a small supermarket and they burn up to 600 kilowatt hours, $2,000 plus dollars. If you're in your little home and you run say 150 kilowatt, you're gonna be paying around say 8,256. You're gonna pay around say let me tell you how much you're gonna pay for your bill this month. Um, that's the 600. You do 35 cents. You're gonna come in on the low end around say 400 and something, 600, no, $600 actually, 600 and something. Listen guys, this is a lot of money. This is a lot of money, and this is what they've been calculating. So it has gone from 28 cents to 35 cents. Yeah, that's what it's gone to. That's what it's gone to. 35 cents. 35 cents. From 20 to 35. And they're saying to you that the fuel clause adjustment accounts for more than 50% of your electricity bill. Just keep that in mind when you go to pay your bill this month. All right? Keep that in mind. What this means for the average household. What this means for the average household. For a household using 250 kilowatt of electricity. Right. So I've been doing the hour to give you a high bill. They're giving you a total overall now. For a household using 250 kilowatt of electricity, this change represents an estimated increase of about $17 on this month's bill. So if you do say 500 kilowatt of electricity, and this is the kilo, I've been doing like a running hour by the hour for a long period, and that's why I got the high number. But this is like if you use 500 kilowatts of electricity here, you're gonna pay 17 and 17 would be 7, 7, 14, 1, 2, 3, $34 will be added to your bill this month. Right? So get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready. I think a lot of households use more than 250 kilowatt. I'm quite sure of that. But that is what it's going to be this month. Let's continue. Why customers are feeling the impact now? It says our suppliers purchase fuel on the world market as frequently as every 2 weeks. So remember, the price goes up every day, every day. It goes up every day. And they're saying that their suppliers purchase fuel on the world market as frequently as every 2 weeks. As a result, recent increases in global oil price are already showing up in the fuel being purchased to generate electricity during this month. So already the month is not over. But what they're telling you is that as a result, recent increases in the global oil price are already showing up in the fuel being purchased to generate electricity this month. That's what they're saying here to you, And the month is not out yet. And people purchase this fuel, according to them, every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks. And look at the way it took off from. It took off from here. I believe that would have been sometime in October of 2025. So it took off in October. It was at $60.89. Then it dropped down to 57, I believe, in December. December around there. Then it began to climb again. So it went from $64. $64 in February, when the Epstein class decided to invade Iran at the end of February. It went from $64. This is where it's at now, $75. This is where at the sometime in March, I think March 20, right? That's where it would be. They're basically telling you on March the 26th. That's for them. But you remember, it will have already gone higher than that outside. So the next time, as they keep purchasing, that number is going to be rising to 80 something, then 90 something, then 100 and something, and then eventually you go over 100 for them on the purchasing end. And that is where your bill is going to skyrocket. My God. Important to know, they said the fuel clause adjustment is not a new charge. It's a direct pass-through of the actual cost of fuel used to generate electricity. So this, when they buy it, they pass on the charge to you. That is why I was saying, why is it that up to now we can't get in this region the whole issue of solar energy? Why is it we can't utilize the solar energy? I keep asking the question, but nobody's answering this question. So as a direct pass-through of the actual cost of fuel used to generate electricity, BLPC does not add a markup on this charge. All right. So let's go to this one here now. It says that what customers can do. Small changes in electricity use can help reduce monthly bills. They're saying that to manage your air conditioning use. Some of us don't even have air condition. But anyway, they're saying that some of us don't even have that, much less to talk about managing that. You know what I'm saying? And then they were talking about unplugging electronics when not in use. They were talking about unplugging the electronics when not in use, like turning off the lights and the fans when leaving. Well, a lot of us do that all the time and we still have high electricity bills. So this is what they're saying that you can do: unplug electronics when not in use, turn off the lights and fans when leaving, managing the air conditioned unit. A lot of us don't have air conditioned units, but this is what they're telling us to do. These simple baby stuff that we do all the time, but we still have high bills even when we do stuff like this. But this is what is coming out of Barbados, right? This is what's coming out of Barbados. And then they're saying, our commitment, we understand that many households and businesses are already managing higher cost, and any changes to electricity bills add to that pressure. While global events remain outside of our control, we will continue to monitor closely the situation, operate with efficiency, and support Barbados' transition to a more diverse and sustainable energy mix. You know what is strange about this whole thing right here? Let me tell you what's weird and strange. Every time something happens outside of the Caribbean region that affects us in the region, that is when you hear these people say, oh, we are going to do something. We're going to do something to try and manage and try to diversify the region. Only when something happens. Good morning. Hello. Yes, good morning. Are you hearing me? All right. Not sure if the person is hearing me. Okay, they may not be hearing me. But anyway, this every time something happens, they come and say, "Oh, they're going to deal with it. They're going to help. They're gonna." It's just inimical to the very cause that we've been talking about for so long. They're not ready for anything, and this is why the Petro-Carib deal was so good for us in the region. But what we sat back and allow America to kidnap a president who would have given us some relief at this time. You can't even cut a deal with Delcy right now. Can't even cut a deal with Delcy right now. You're not gonna get back that. All the fuel is going to the America. Let's go back to the line.
Now bring in.
Hi, good morning.
Yes, hello, good morning. This is Miss Arima speaking here.
Good morning. Good to hear you, my dear.
Yes, long time, long time.
Well, we are here
So,
and we're doing what we gotta do. Talk to me.
I'm lowering a little volume here so I could hear you properly.
Yeah, you're gonna have
Now, in this whole scenario here with the fuel, the importation and so,
Yeah.
I believe what we have to look at first was where we getting the fuel. So now you told me that they're really getting it from the United States,
Correct.
Italy, which is Europe.
Correct.
We paying attention.
Correct.
Europe, and then I think you said Holland.
Yep.
I find that strange.
Very strange.
With the part with Holland, but then that is what is there.
That's according
Keith Christopher Rowley.
that's according to the World Bank as of the end of 2025.
Okay. Now, Keith Christopher Rowley told us that they used to be getting the refined fuel from the United States of America when they shut down our refinery here.
Okay.
So I always heard about that. And okay, that is true. We hear it now.
Yeah.
So remember, we have to pay attention to Iran. Iran said that they're not giving any fuel to allies to the United States. So we have to look at if Italy is an ally of the United States. Where Italy getting their fuel from? That's it. With all this thing, you have to look at that, you know. Where Italy getting their fuel from, if they're buying it refined or if they does refine. But if they are an ally of the United States, nothing for them. As we know, the United States, and the same thing goes for Holland. If they're getting,
So here's a quick thing for you, right?
Yeah.
According to the World Bank, Italy purchases fuel products including crude oil, natural gas, and refined petroleum from Algeria, Azerbaijan, Libya, United States, and Kyrgyzstan.
Okay.
So they purchase it outside of the United States. So from Algeria in Africa, Azerbaijan up in Europe, Libya over there in the Middle East, and from Kyrgyzstan. That's where they're purchasing currently. They're not their natural gas, they're refined petroleum from.
Okay. But then we have to look at Holland.
So then we have to look at
where.
where.
You have any idea where Holland getting their gas from?
So let me put in that quickly in the World Bank as well, and let me get that for you. And the World Bank is saying, and so the World Bank, I have it right here for you. The World Bank is saying that Netherlands purchased their fuel products and crude oil mainly from the United States.
Okay then. Well, the Caribbean here, CARICOM,
yes,
we kind of safe, because then you have to look at the geography with the map. If they were getting fuel from the Middle East, and anything had to come out that straight that they locked down, they closed down, well, we would have been in trouble.
Correct.
But in as much as we purchasing from the United States is a different route. But then it comes to tell you, the gas, the fuel that the United States will have to use to help European nations, the United Kingdom, and even here, the Caribbean themselves as well, and whoever again, they're going to run out in a timing.
they are
It's
going.
not going to work.
They are going to have
So,
problems with fuel in the region, whether we like it or not.
yeah.
Because the
Uh-huh.
United States, like you rightly pointed out, that the United States is going to help their bigger allies first. That's the first thing.
Exactly.
And and I'll tell you why. CARICOM itself, primarily according to the World Bank at the end of 2025, CARICOM member states primarily purchase their fuel from the United States of America.
Okay.
And they also said at the end of 2025, there was an agreement, a regional agreement with Venezuela. However, that has been terminated. That is what the World Bank is saying as of December 2025.
Well, let me tell you something here now.
Yes, go ahead.
When Trinidad and Tobago closed down the refinery, it was hard for the Caribbean because they used to get their cheaper gas from Venezuela through Petrocaribe.
Mm-hmm.
Remember
Correct.
that?
Correct.
Follow me good.
Correct.
And then, due to how they are CARICOM countries, Keith Christopher Rowley used to provide them with fuel.
Correct.
Where they would refine on the outside and CARICOM would purchase. He used to sell them crude. And on the outside, as I say, for all these islands, and then they would get some of the gas from Trinidad and Tobago already refined.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
But hear what Keith Christopher Rowley said. Nicolas Maduro allowed him to get the extra crude from one of our fields called the Manatee.
Uh-huh.
Right? But as it is now, due to the bacchanal with Trinidad and Tobago with Delcy Rodriguez, she lock off on us. We could only get fuel, or I should say crude, sorry, on our side. So the amount we could have gotten, right?
Yep.
We're not getting it anymore.
So
with all this the talking to the citizens here about the selling and the making, they can't get the amount. Because Kamala Prasad Bisesa is persona non grata. Right? And all the foolish talk she talking to about drag and gas pipeline continuing.
Yeah.
I would like to ask them if it continuing all on the Venezuelan side.
It's interesting.
Because with that dragon gas field in the Dragon Mouth there by the Gulf of Paria, northwest of our land, Trinidad and Tobago, which is in our waters too.
Correct.
I find it Jamaican is the same kind of wastage that they say Christopher Rowley did with Stuart Young, the energy minister.
Interesting.
Because Venezuela is still unstable.
Yes, it's
even worse than when Nicholas was there. I don't know if they know all of that.
I don't think
Trinidad and Tobago under siege with that man they called Diosdado Cabello. Right?
Well,
listen, they banned me from talking everywhere, you know. Because when I talk like this, it's problem, you know.
Well, I'm going to talk about that after this part of the program, because I see something. I got an email yesterday from a very good government informant in Jamaica, and I will tell you exactly what is being planned. But we'll talk about after you finish, after this part anyway.
Yeah, let me wrap up quickly. So Trinidad, as I said, Trinidad and Tobago is under siege by Diosdado Cabello. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Yes.
Right now, they want him dead. They always had a bounty on his head, and they increased the bounty, right? And I think it's 25 billion, right? Half the amount they had for Nicholas. And I want the people in the region to know is that they hold the wrong man. They kidnapped the wrong man because that man, Diosdado, he threatened everybody. He threatened Delcy. He threatened Delcy. He threatened the next one, the opposition leader, Maria Corina Machado. He waiting for her to come back in the country. He say he have a big surprise for her.
Wow.
And he out of control.
Wow.
And the US ain't able with him. And you know the good thing about it? He kidnapped, he have the Javistas grab some US citizens. So the tail under pressure with that man. So this is why they want him dead or alive. I wish them luck. Have a good day.
All right. Thank you very much for calling. Appreciate. Well, so
you're welcome.
Right. That's Mr. Rima out of Trinidad. Appreciate your calling. I tell you something. We're gonna be in plenty problem with the fuel because while our main supplier is the United States of America, America does get fuel from the Gulf as well. They get from Saudi Arabia, they get from Iraq, they get different places there. But Canada is basically the largest import. The import from Canada, the largest. I think it's around 52% of the crude and the fuel products come out of Canada. So, but Canada themselves, I heard speaking this morning, they were talking about hoarding their own oil because they don't know what is going to take place. So they're hoarding their own oil right now. So you know if they if it's going to come to a point where we have to take care of our citizens, they're going to hoard the oil for themselves too. So either way you look at it, we are going to be under a lot of pressure. This is a lot of a bad timing thing going on here, you know. But our people, them, and I'm talking about our leaders, them, they're ready yet for business. They really ain't ready yet for business in this region here. But let's get to the position of what Mr. Rima just mentioned something. And by the way, anybody else in the classroom who needs to get in on the action, it's either you use the WhatsApp or you use the link in the chat section. Click and come on in. All right. If you need to get in and make your point, because I don't have time sometimes to read all of the comments that you put there. When I'm teaching, I prefer if you interact directly. Either you call the WhatsApp number or you use the link in the chat section, come on into the program and have a discussion with the teacher as well. Listen, she just mentioned something about when you talk, right? You mentioned something about when you talk. And I know in Trinidad, they were looking at this whole thing of social media. If you talk too much on social media and looking at some bill that they can really go after you with on social media. It was this discussion. I think those in Trinidad would remember what I'm talking about. But it's not only Trinidad alone they're looking at doing that, you know. They're looking at that across different countries in the region. Yeah, don't think it's Trinidad alone, you know. I got a very interesting email. Barbados, Trinidad, Jamaica, they're looking at something called, I don't know if you ever heard this term. They had a term they used to mention long ago. It was in George Orwell book. I don't know how many of you remember George Orwell. Remember George Orwell and the Animal Farm? There was something in it called the thought police. I don't know if you heard about it. Thought police, as in what you think, thoughts. And the thought police in George Orwell book was what you call the fictional secret police in his novel. And they were tasked with detecting and punishing thought crime, whether it be personal or political thoughts, which were unapproved by the state, are using surveillance, telescreens, informats, and all those kind of things. So that came out of the George Orwell book, right? Yes, President Jaffa, you have it correct. Big Brother is watching. So what I'm saying here is that is something that is being taught about right now in the region, among some leaders, among some countries. So you hear them talking about social media bill in Trinidad. If you talk too much, they could punish you, they could do this, they could charge you. I mean, worldwide, a lot of people are thinking about that worldwide as well. But what the hell is a thought police? You could get punished for your thoughts? That's what you're telling me? You get punished for your thoughts? They're in your head? But no, they could listen to you. And all these cameras you see they're putting up across the region is not just for traffic and for anybody. I plan to talk about Animal Farm one of these days, you know. I'll show you how it's playing out right now because the Animal Farm we live in right now. I'll show you how it's playing out one of these days. But outside of that, Dominica in the house, good morning. Outside of that, You mean to tell people want to punish you for your thinking, for what you think? People like me and you, others who think differently outside of the narrative, that is what they want the thought police for. To deal people like me, you, and others who are thinking outside of the box, not the normal kind of narrative that they push and they want you to take wholly and solely and run with it. So you could be punished for that. And that is something that they're thinking about. Um, I saw a story. I saw a story. I saw a story coming out of Canada. How many of you saw this story here? It came out of Canada just the other day. I don't know how many of you saw it coming out of Canada. It said that a former British Columbia school trustee ordered to pay 750,000 for hate speech, discrimination, human rights tribunal say. What did he say? Basically, he was saying that there were only two genders, a male and a female. Hmm? Male and female. So the tribunal said that this man invoked negative and insidious stereotypes about LGBT plus people. Could you imagine that? Hmm? They're charging him $750,000 because some teachers felt that they were hurt because he spoke about only two genders existing. So how many genders you think existing? 16? It ain't now 16 genders anyway. Until anybody could show me two men having a child after having sex and two women having a child after having sex, you can't convince me about this nonsense you're talking about. Two genders, male, female. You vex, you bear, go bathe your skin. That's it. I done. If you vex, go bathe your skin. There are two genders, male and female. You could dress up in all the pants you want and try to sound like a man. You are a woman, you have vagina, and you have breasts. You could cut them off. You could flatten your chest. And you could tell the doctors them to do surgery on you and put on a penis. You understand? You were born a man. If you're born a man, you're born a man. You're born a woman, you're born a woman. Two genders. No two women can't have a child, and two men can't have a child. End the discussion. And I noticed that whole thing has crept into the region where people are talking about LGBTQ rights and all that kind of stuff going on. And if you talk too hard about them, they feel hurt. And nobody going to stop me from talking about that. I said they are male and they are female, whether you like it or not. I am not changing my stance on that until you could prove to me that two men can have a child and two women can have sex and have a child. Then nobody changing my mind on that. And I know that can't happen. That is why two women who are together will go to a fertility clinic and tell the doctors them, take a sperm from somebody who have it in the bank, put it in the woman, and let she create a child or have a child. You understand what I'm saying to you? I have never heard no man going in any fertility clinic anywhere in the world, whether in the US, the UK, anyway, and tell the doctor, take a sperm from a man and put it into the man, and the man go have a child. Never heard that either. So what foolishness you are talking about ain't going nowhere with me. Y'all could, after when I done talk this whole thing here, if YouTube want to take down the video and do whatever they want to, is the business. I don't care. If they want to ban this channel again too, they could do it too. I do not care. I will talk about it from now until my eyes are closed on this earth here. There's no way, absolutely no way, no man could go inside any fertility clinic and tell the people them put a sperm in me and I create a child. They happening no day, no night. With the egg inside of he to create child. Hmm? And if you talk to her, they say hurt. So this man, look at here, this man here had to pay $750,000 to some teachers who said they felt hurt because he said in a school meeting that there were only two genders. $750,000 of people was hurt. You could imagine that? $750,000 in Canada. It says, here's what the story said. The BC Human Rights Tribunal ordered the former school trustee Barry Newfield to pay $750,000 for violating human rights code by publishing this is hate speech and discriminatory content against LGBTQ people. What was the hate speech? What was the hate speech? For saying that there were two genders. Hmm? That's hate speech enough for them, enough. For saying that was two genders exist. That's hate speech for them. So he gotta pay for hate speech. Hate speech. His hate speech was that they had two genders. Two genders. Yeah. Two genders. That's the hate speech. Well, Charles say you can't create water from paper. And that is true. Listen to me. I agree with President Jaffa, right? Let me tell you something. I agree with President Jaffa. I have no issue with people. And when I say no issue, this is what I mean. People who want to choose that lifestyle, that is their business, so to do. You are given free choice, free will. And everything you do in life, every choice you make, have consequences. All I'm saying, if Tom Jones down the road want to be gay, if he wants someone to enter in his exit, that's his business. Okay? If that's how he wants it, that's his business. But you bring them talk to me, and we go have problems. And I mean serious problems. Don't bring them to me. Not interested. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. If Mary Jones up the road want to have Mary Jones down the road, place a dildo into her, which is strapped on to Mary Jones, the other one, and think that's a man she's having sex with, that's Mary Jones' them problem. All of them, man and woman, all of those things are an abomination. They are absolutely wrong. Some people say that they don't have an issue if two women are kissing or if two women are having sex and they come home and they meet them there, they will join in. They say join in the fun. That's how they put it. That they will join in the fun. That's how they put it. But if they come home and they meet man and man day, they will pull a weapon. Well, all of them are wrong. All of them are wrong. That's all I'm saying. Is this kind of hypocrisy that we have? Why the world is upside down? Because they give excuse for one thing and find the other one to be right, while both of them are absolutely wrong in the first place to begin with. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Is that kind of hypocrisy that we have encouraged why the world is upside down? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. So, just for his thoughts, he's paying $750,000 just for his thoughts, for saying what is correct and true. Okay? I know a lot of countries in the region want to encourage the same-sex marriage because for them, it's big in tourism You have these ships that go about, and they have some of the biggest cruises going on, where these people come to sail around the world, and they make a lot of money. And a lot of rich people are involved in these things, people with money. And so, because of that, a lot of these islands, because of the love of the money, they would want to try to see if they could say the same-sex marriage is okay, and we encourage it on our island, so you can come and get married here, because when they come with a big entourage and they spend a lot of money. A lot of people really do sell their souls for 30 pieces of silver. They do. It's not something that, but that's what they do. But anyway, that is something I wanted to just mention in the class this morning. So, guys, listen to me. I'm going to give you a few minutes now for anybody who wants to make their comment. There must be something that is bothering you. You can come in right now. You can click on the link in the chat section and come on in now. If not, we're going to start wrapping up class because it's already after the 11 o'clock hour. I do have some other issues going on, which I have to attend to this morning. That's why I started the classroom very early. But if you want to make a comment, the link is there in the chat section. You can click on it and come on in. In the meantime, as we wrap up the classroom this morning, I want to say that this whole issue of the fuel is going to cause a problem for a lot of us. And I think that we should have already made preparations before. But that is what it is for a lot of people. Laziness, we're managing. There was something I saw yesterday when I spoke about the whole issue of Cuba. And I also saw a commentator again going after or talking about Ralph Gonzalez. I'm not going to defend Ralph Gonzalez now, but I'm going to tell you why I'm going to mention it quickly before I get off. There is this thing about being too old and getting old and old. But the individual apparently framed his discussion about if it's time for Gonzalez to retire. You know, I want to ask a question. Well, Gonzalez left office already. He's not the Prime Minister of St. Vincent. He was elected as an MP, which means he's now the leader of the opposition because he's the only one who actually won his seat. But I want to ask a question. I want to ask who benefits from pushing this narrative of people being too old to serve. I mean, if you're losing your mental faculties and you could hardly walk, I don't think you should be in an office. But once you're intact, I think there's nothing wrong with people who prefer to have your leadership. But who really benefits from pushing that kind of narrative, though? Because if you examine the history and the politics and the struggles in the Caribbean, you start to realize basically, something very, very, very disturbing. It looks to me that somebody wants to rewrite the entire history of the region. That is what it looks like to me. It looks like there is a group of people who wants to rewrite the entire history of this Caribbean region of ours. If you look at Joe Biden, he was 78 when he became the president of the United States. As a matter of fact, Mahathir Mohamad returned to power at 92. But this narrative engineering that we have going around, and I'm not saying that these people should be in office at that age, but I realized something. The younger heads in the region hardly have any sense of direction in terms of history, the struggles, and all of the things that took place that build the region. That is why the United States of America easily can manipulate them. So I see that people are trying to get rid of these leaders who have a sense of direction and know how to battle it with the United States of America. Even listen carefully to a lot of them, who talking about these leaders, Especially I seen a lot of people talking about Gonzalez, but Gonzalez has taken the position that powerful governments do not like. He defended Cuba, he defended Venezuela, he challenged the US pressure on the Caribbean government, and he also spoke about unfinished business of the Caribbean sovereignty. That will make anybody's position very controversial. And of course, there will be elements that would want to be rid of them. But you see, at a time like this that we're living in this region here, we need people who understand the dynamics, of what we're facing. The younger ones we have no one. I'm not saying that. No, don't get me wrong. If people need change, they need change and they vote for change. That is why Gonzalez out of office. But what I'm saying, I notice a trend with the younger ones. They don't understand the history of the region. They don't understand the struggles of the region. That is why they've been manipulated very easily. They need to get somebody to help them to understand what the struggles were. They need to get somebody to teach them what the struggles were in the region, so that they won't be so easily manipulated and pushed around by the United States of America. Do you understand what I'm saying? That is the problem I'm having. That is the problem I'm having. So I am not saying that anybody should be in office till they're 100. That's not right. It's not something I don't go with that. But I think that the narrative of pushing aside people with experience and understanding of how these empires operate, even if they're outside of government, they should be at least, I think, consulted on this issue so that the younger ones could know how to maneuver themselves in government. You have a wealth of knowledge in the Caribbean, You have a wealth of knowledge, but people need to use it. You can't just sit down and say, this is no, you can't do that. And I have to talk about this in another classroom, because this educated house slave mindset that a lot of them picked up on, they working for us, they working out for us at all in the region. They're just stepping in and giving power to people. When you look at what happened in the region here, just in St. Vincent, where you had the US striking a boat and killing St. Lucians, that gone dead in the region. They talked about that at the CARICOM meeting, But apparently, that discussion they had at the CARICOM meeting ain't going anywhere. That did not go anywhere, It didn't go anywhere. You gotta turn down your computer and stuff like that, my brother. Yeah. Yeah, go right ahead, my brother.
Yes. Yeah, brother, man. The educated out slaves. These are the kind of people we're dealing with right now.
Yeah, well.
Call them the educated out slaves.
Yeah, they are. They're very educated. They're very educated.
That podcast, I was listening to him the other night. I won't call his name, but the one of not. I think some of our viewers probably know who we're talking about, And when you listen to him, this is a guy that I really thought he was a voice when it comes to Pan-Africanism and, unbiased in his analysis, but the live that he did, was really, really disappointing, and I saw that guy was just a political activist, that is trying to, as you say, promote a narrative. And you are right, Ralph Gonzalez is someone, yes, he may have his way, the people wanted a change, but Ralph Gonzalez is still relevant when it comes to geopolitics in the region. And I have great respect for Ralph Gonzalez because he has the experience, he knows the inside and the outside when it comes to imperialism. He has lived, he has been along, long enough to understand these people. So, I encourage people that when Ralph Gonzalez speaks, you should pay attention. You may not like him individually, but the information he gives, it is relevant, especially for the younger leaders. Well, I don't call them leaders, I call them Caribbean supervisors. For the young Caribbean supervisors,
yes.
that are in charge of the affairs of the United States.
In the region.
Listen to
in the region.
in the region, exactly.
What you have is a bunch. What you have now in the region is a bunch of managers, town governors,
Managers, my brother.
governors
Yes.
appointed to manage the affairs of the empire.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're not leaders. They're not leaders anymore. We don't have leaders
You
anymore.
know, you should keep the old folks around. You know, and I'm speaking to the young supervisors. I don't know if they hear me, but keep the old folks around like Ralph Gonzalez.
But listen to this, right? Listen to this. And if you note, I said I am not in favor of anybody being in office until they're in diapers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in favor of that, for somebody to be in office until they're in diapers a second time, because remember, once a man, twice a child. So
exactly, yes.
I am not in favor of anybody being in diapers and again in office in diapers. I'm not in favor of that. But what I'm saying, if through your process that you've decided to vote out someone of experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe that we should be so cognizant in the region that we should take heed from them, take counsel from them, because
that's right.
They know the system more than you. You may come in, you're young, you may not have the experience, you're 30-something years old, 40-something years old. Clearly, you don't have the experience and the knowledge of the struggles the region was facing with these empires. And you won't know how to cut a deal with them. You won't know how to maneuver discussions with them. So draw on their experience. Just draw on the experience. That's all I'm talking about. And don't try to denigrate them in public like what I see in some Caribbean commentators trying to do. Let me tell you something, you could be all the Kingston mulatto you want to be and pretend you're white. Right? You could be Kingston mulatto, Port of Spain mulatto, Castries mulatto, Rose mulatto. It could be anything. You was St. George mulatto. You could be all the mulatto you want to be. Right? These people have no respect for you, and I'll tell you why. You are easily bought and sold.
That's right.
When you put up your discourse to them like how I sit here, right? They will take me under their wings more and love me more and want to be my company. You know why? Because I am telling them how school keep it.
Yeah.
But you see when you sit down and you say, yes, sir, 3 bags full, one for the master down the lane, one for the little girl or something, and they will run roughshod over you when they're done with you. So you could be all the Kingston mulatto you want to be and pretend you're white. You ain't white.
You ain't white.
Stop sucking up. Stop sucking up to people who don't like you.
Exactly.
And before you talk, you must know the history of the region. Don't parade as some kind of Pan-Africanist when you want to be a Kingston mulatto.
Let's stick a pin there. Anyway. The talk that is going around. Okay, I'm coming to Cuba.
Yes.
That is the hot topic now. The talk that is, I see some of these so-called podcasters.
Yeah.
About Cuba and the regime, and it's a communist regime, and the doctors are being exploited. The question is, the current state of Cuba right now, who is really responsible for that?
Well,
what is the factor, the contributor of Cuba economy in the situation that it is? And you may not like what the Cuban government is doing, but the steps that they have to take in order for them to stay afloat. Who is responsible for that?
Unfortunately,
that is the question that they don't want to answer, the real issues that they don't want to discuss.
Unfortunately, if we're going to have a real discussion about Cuba and the problems Cuba are facing, we have to start at who created the problem.
That is it.
These people who are having discussions about Cuba don't want to start from that point. They don't want to start from that. That is where you have to begin the discussion.
Yeah.
But if you don't start it at that point, you're going to have a one-sided, lopsided discussion. I am not involved in that. I'm not involved in that.
Exactly. And that's it, and it's you're correct on that. You're correct on that.
Yes.
There will always be a one-sided discussion because we don't want to discuss the root cause of Cuba's situation. And well, I can't say surprise, but it's comedy to me to hear some of these podcasters talking, rubbish when I listen to them, because number one, as you rightly say, they don't know the history, and they just, believe in the narrative they're promoting. I don't know if they are conscious of that, but they're promoting that narrative that the United States is pushing. Now, one last thing I want to address before I go, brother.
Mhm.
Israel. I want to come to Israel. I want to
Yes,
speak
yes.
to my fellow Christians, I don't know, however you want to call it, religious people.
Yes.
Israel, we say, or we were taught, is God's chosen people. But Israel is not immune from corrections and being called out for the wrongs that they are committing. That is what I want to think. Israel is just like any other nation in the world. And this whole thing about Israel, the Holy Land, well, a couple of things I want to say. But let me start here. This thing about Israel and the Holy Land, Israel is no longer a Holy Land. That's the truth.
Right.
Israel is no longer a Holy Land. That holiness about Israel have been gone, far gone. A matter of fact, I believe God is fed up with what is going on and the hypocrisy, and He's judging them right now. That is what I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And we have seen in scriptures where God, yes, loved Israel, but still He judged them. He corrected them. He rebuked them. He used people from foreign lands to call them out for the wrongs.
Correct.
So we have to stop this. We have to stop this hypocrisy. And about Israel, because it's Israel, we shouldn't say anything and should hush him out. All right. Number two, it slipped my mind, but I'm trying to get back what I wanted to say. Israel, oh God, it slipped my mind, my brother. It slipped my mind. But if it comes back, it comes back. If it don't come back, then maybe it's for a reason.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to say about Israel, right? Israel, is not immune because they are called Israel. And yes, that is what I want to say. Number two, I'm not too sure if right now. I grew up going to church with my great grandmother, my grandma. I grew up with old people. Let's put it like that. I grew up with old people. When I was young, my great grandmother grew me up, and when I reach adolescent stage, becoming a young man, my grandmother on my father's side took me in and take care of me until I become an adult. So I grew up around old people, and I grew up around going to church, and they teach us that these people are Jews, right? But I'm beginning to question: are these people really Jews, or is it exactly what the Book of Revelation is saying, that there will be some so-called people that will be professing themselves to be Jews, but don't believe them? No, that is in your Bible. That is what the Bible says. God said there are some people in the last days that will come among who calling themselves Israel and Israel of nation and nation of Israel, but they are not Jews. They are not the biblical Jews. They are synagogues of Satan. And how would we know that? The question is, how do you know that? What makes you say that? Well, the scripture says, by their fruits you shall know them. You cannot profess to be a people of God, and your behaviors are satanic. You cannot.
Absolutely.
Your behavior is going about and causing chaos. No, am I putting all the blame on Israel? No, I believe there is faults on both sides of the spectrum. Both sides,
Mm-hmm.
That is my stance on that. There are faults on both sides. But Israel's behavior, we have to stop the hypocrisy, especially some of our pastors and things in the Caribbean region. You have to stop this hypocrisy. It is hypocrisy, remaining silent and not saying anything and calling out on this barbaric behavior. That is it, my brother.
That topic you just brought up there. You see that? That's the next class I want to get into.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people have been twisted in the wind when it comes to that issue of that Israel thing, And I will talk about that in the next class for sure. I'm glad you brought it up. But thanks a lot for that.
Yes, my brother. Yes, I think you should have a class about that.
Yeah,
So
I need
take
to.
care. I don't want to keep the program.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Good morning. Yes, good morning. Go right ahead.
I want to make a comment.
Go right ahead. We're hearing you. Go right ahead.
All right. I call in from the Bahamas.
Bahamas.
Now,
Okay.
as far as I see the situation with the Caribbean people and Cuba, did they know Cuba was instrumental in freeing South Africa?
Yep.
They went there to beat the South African army. Plus, they built in the Bahamas. People be going to Cuba for to get their eyes. We could just kick them to the curb.
Tell you.
These Caribbean leaders, the mayor, the prime minister or president, what's her name? Motley.
Yeah.
She got more fire than all of them put together. We need to wake up. Because what I see for the Caribbean, I talking to the young people, those from 11 to 50. Because these old heads who in my age, they ain't making no sense. They still got that colonial mind. Get to Africa. Africa on the move. There's economic development happening. Please get your passport right away. Because that's your world ID. If you can't get your passport now, get it for your children them. Because this can hit the fan.
Got you.
The issue we having in the Caribbean is the Bahamas. We went to Africa and set up their financial system. In the African liberation movement and in Pan-Africanism, the thing was don't give the Africans and the Caribbean people their economy, give them flag and national anthem.
Yep.
But that is changing now. And with tourism being not a stable economy, if fight broke out, the economy gonna drop.
Correct.
I'm 69 years old. I've been fighting the struggle from in the 70s with the Southern African Liberation Movement. Like they tried to put us back in slavery. And Caribbean people, please, before you all talk about you all African, I ask you all ancestors to forgive you all. Open your birth certificate, and where you see race, see what it say. That's what we got in common. You see how the Caribbean Federation they fall apart because everybody want to be leader.
That's right.
And these young people, they ain't playing with us. When you hear these youngins say, I got to eat, that means they can be robbing us. Young people, get to Africa, please. The amount of money you're going to spend, it'll be cheaper. Just go and see what's going on. And this whole thing about Israel. Come on, black people. We the chosen ones. The Palestine, the state of Israel was going to be in Uganda. The British tea plantations there, so they say forget that. Then it was going to be in Argentina. That's where the Nazi scientists escaped. Look up for Beta Israel. In the 70s, when Israel went to Ethiopia, the so-called help their brothers come back and carry them down to Israel. When the Ethiopian Jew reach, they tell them they got to reconvert to the Talmud. And the Ethiopian Jews say, no, we don't know nothing about no Talmud. So, they tell them, convert or go back to Ethiopian style. Then they sterilize the women them without them knowing. We are the ones, we are the true Israelite, we the please, man.
All right, thank you very much.
We gotta make, excuse me?
No, I was telling you to wrap it up because we gotta get out of here. We're over time.
Okay, my brother.
Yeah, but appreciate your calling next time. All right, good. Yeah,
all
so
right, thank you.
That's another caller coming in there. We're gonna have to wrap it up now. I think we had a caller coming in as well. Another caller. I'm not sure. Let's see if we could get back this last caller before we wrap up things. Let's see if we could get back that call online. Yes, brother Wayne, the other point you wanted to make?
Well, what good morning, everybody. Forget myself. What Afro-Grenadian spoke about there, his interest in it. I sent you some information on that probably about 2 months ago. And I've sent two videos for you.
Yeah, I
a while
saw
ago,
I saw them.
probably while the program was on.
I
Yes,
saw
so
them. Yeah.
you could share it with him because under his one of his videos I'd asked him if he could try to reach me because thing, but I would not be able to help him now because the situation that's going on. I have problems with my eye and it's getting worse. So even to see your number, my son that had to do it for me. Yeah. So you see the problems that all these things causing in the Caribbean, healthcare and health conditions are worsening because of all those things. And I think our leaders need, if Cuba is being pressured, we have to support them. We have a moral duty to support them still.
Absolutely.
But probably they could look to places like India and Brazil and so for help because the global north is not really willing to help. And in relation to what is going on there in the Middle East now, I think that Europe is just playing a game. They're holding out still. Let America do all the pounding and the destruction, and they would step in as savior. So the people would give them the oil and thing at concessionary rates and all of those things later on. It's a game.
Everybody playing
It's a global game.
Everybody playing the game, man.
And as it relates to the gender issue, I strongly believe because on the other while now that everything is interconnected. What is going on right now globally?
Yeah.
Gender, the fuel, regime change, all of those things. And the Davos meetings, you have to pay very close attention to what goes on in the Davos meetings. Our prime ministers will go and they will come back and not tell us anything much.
Absolutely.
Nothing of substance.
Absolutely.
But I believe that a lot of what is going on currently is all tied in when they have those conferences and things like that. Where they tell them, what they should do. I am looking at the so-called cleaning up and thing of derelict vehicles. Yes, we need it, but what they're trying to do a lot. Even I don't know. I spoke to a guy one time who studied in Japan. I mean, donkey years ago, as people would say it, and he said the reason why they change models of vehicles is not to make the vehicles better, but to make sure that the roadside mechanic cannot catch up with the technology.
Absolutely.
So they keep changing it.
Absolutely.
So in essence, they have all these electric vehicles and things like that. No, we have to depend on them for everything, whereas we have what you call those people that do machine shops and stuff like that could actually remake parts for some of those things in situations. So when you see the cleaning up going on, the metal goes back out to them relatively cheap, you could say free, because we pay more to get rid of it than what we're getting for it. Okay. So all of those things people need to take into consideration. And the thing Afro-Grenadian was talking about with the Ashkenazis and things like that there. That's information for you.
Well, that's another class for another time though. That's a long one.
Yes.
But send the info for me. Send the info for me.
Tucker Carlson and Candice Owen has been hitting them really hard recently. I am convinced. I've been reading. I like to read a lot, and before that I've been following up. But these days, because of the sight problem, I have to more depend on videos. So you have some. As much as I get, I will share it with you.
Okay, appreciate it.
Yeah. So you have a good day. And
thanks a lot.
Enjoy it. Yeah.
Okay, buddy. All right. So that's our last caller for the classroom this morning. We actually out of time. Want to keep anybody else any longer because It's almost 12 o'clock hour. Like I said, I had some business, other business to attend to, so I'm not gonna keep anybody else long to this Monday. So all guys, everybody who's been in the class, um, thank you for joining the classroom today. We continue to spread the knowledge, share the information with each other. You can share this live with your friends as well. Get people to subscribe because that's the only how we're going to grow the community. So we could deal with all these issues that are coming up. And tomorrow, the most high willing, we'll discuss another more issues that are affecting us in the region. So thanks, guys, and do have a good day.